Okay, so now you've made the basic version of your game, but let's see if we can extend it a little bit. In this video, we're going to try adding in a dirt to get to at the end of our little obstacle. And when we get there, it's going to move us to the next map. So let's get started. Last time we ended with a ball where it would follow our mouse around, and then if we touched the sides of the obstacle course here, then it would say game over and we'd have to restart. But now I want there to actually be an end. So when I get all the way to the end, all the way to the end of my maze there, I want there to be like a green circle that if I get there, it'll either say I win if I only have one map, or maybe it'll move me to the next map and I can almost have like a levels system here. So let's start by going into our background again. We're actually going to draw in that green circle. So we can do that by going to the bottom right here and clicking on backdrops. And again, we're going to go into backdrops, the tab in the top left up here. And now I'm going to add in a green circle. So I'm going to go and select the circle drawing tool. I'm going to first move my brightness back up, and then I'm going to pick this really lovely like fluorescent green color here. And it's important that when we do this, we also make sure that we don't have an outline, that our outline is 0, because otherwise we'll have a black outline around our goal. And when we touch it, we'll be touching the color black and the game will end. So just make sure that you don't have an outline there. And then we can go in and I'm going to drag my circle there. Look at that. Let's make it nice. Perfect. Okay. So now I have my green circle at the end as well. And so let's go and let's write the code for what's going to happen when we touch that green circle. So let's go back into ball and back into code here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in another one of these if-then statements. We're going to kind of start stacking them on top of each other. So I'm going to go into the orange control menu, grab another one of these if-then-else, and I'm going to put it inside of the else statement here. I'd really love it to go on top of that go to xy, but it doesn't like me doing that. That's okay. So inside of this if-then, we're going to do a very similar thing to what we did with the black lines. But instead of black, I'm going to go into the sensing. I'm going to grab one of the touching color blocks here again. And this time, I'm going to select green. But I'm not going to go and use the slider this time. I'm actually going to use this little dropper. And this is important because we need to make sure that it's the same color of green that we chose earlier. Now, you could go in and match up the numbers here exactly if you would like, but I find it easier to use the dropper. So now we're going to say, if we are touching the color green, then for right now, I'm just going to say we have one level, and let's make it so that we win. Right, so I'm going to go into the looks, and just like I did when we lost, I'm going to have one of these say blocks, except this time I'm going to say, you win, with an exclamation mark and a nice little happy face this time. Great. And then just like last time, I'm going to go and with a little bit of maneuvering here, I'm going to move that go to X, Y into the else statement. And just like that, we should, if I don't mess up getting through my maze, hey, and when I get to the end, it says I win. Fantastic. Okay, so this is a lot more fun because this is starting to become a little bit more like a game now. But we're not quite done. What I'm also going to show you how to do is add in more levels that you can kind of string one after the other. So what I am going to do is, again, go into my backdrops. And into my backdrops here. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to duplicate this current backdrop. And the reason for this is I want to have a good sense of where I ended the last level, because that is where I'm going to have to start my new level from. So I'm going to go and I'm going to select the little pointer here, and I'm going to go click on that line, and delete. Click on that line and delete. And I'm going to leave my green circle where it is for now because that's my kind of ending point last time, my starting point this time. So I'm just going to leave it for a second. This time I am going to use some straight lines just to, mix things up a little bit. And maybe I'm going to go across and then down, across, down. We'll kind of end in the bottom left here. Okay, so let's see. I'll kind of draw my other boundary. Sure. We go down to the bottom. And then this last little bit here, I'm going to give myself some little challenges. I'm just doing this quickly. You can see I'm kind of making this a little bit of a maze that I have to go through. Okay, so then I'm going to select my little pointer again, and I'm going to move the goal into the bottom left. It moved my ball with me. That is okay. All right, so you can see that now when I start, it's a little bit different because it still wants me to start in the top left. So what I'm going to have to do is now go into my code and have it move which background we're actually going to and from. So I go into my ball and go into my code. I'm going to want to start by saying, okay, when I first run the game, I want to switch my backdrop to backdrop 1. I'm just going to stop running the program for a second. Okay, so now when I click the green button, great. It goes through, but it doesn't go to the next one yet. So what we have to do here is inside of our little if statements here, when I'm touching the color green, if I've gotten to the color green, it means that I have completed that level. So what I want to go and do is instead of saying you win, I'm just going to say go to the next backdrop, go to the next level, essentially. So we can do this, work our way through, and hey, look at that, and then it spawns me in the next one. Oh, and I got game over there right at the end. What can happen here, I'm just going to cheat a little bit. Oh, no, it reset. Okay, so I want to show you what happens here. And maybe I've made my game too hard for myself. So I'm just working my way through my maze. Ooh, that one's tight. There we go. Okay, but you can see when I got to that final one, it went back to the original backdrop. So this is working. The computer is doing what we told it to. But maybe when we get to our final backdrop, we also want to say, okay, then you win. So we're going to need another if-else statement here. And I'm going to put that inside of the if touching green color part. So what I'm going to ask here is I'm going to ask, well, what level am I on right now? What backdrop am I on? So I can, I'm basically going to be checking what number of backdrop I'm on. Our backdrop has a number associated. Is it backdrop number 1, number 2? And I'm going to check which one that is. So I'm going to go into the operators here, and I'm going to grab the comparison operator. So that's like the equal sign, right? And I'm going to go into looks, and I'm going to say, okay, if my backdrop number, which you can see is kind of near the bottom here, equals 2, then that's my last level. So that's when I want to say I win. Else, I want to go to the next backdrop. So let's test this out, make sure that it's working. Start out, got to the end, and I hit my sign. So I'm actually just going to go ahead. I'm just going to make my ball really small right now just to make this easy for myself. Just so I can show you. And look at that. And when I get to the second one, it says that I win. So fantastic. We now have working code our game is working, and we can start building as many levels as we want here. If we added in a third backdrop, the only thing that we'd have to change is we'd have to change if backdrop number equals 3 instead than we want. So we can build as many levels as we want. So if you have kiddos that like playing games, this is a great one because they can go and they can design their own levels. They can try to beat them. They can make it hard or easy for themselves. And they can start building up stuff and sharing it with each other. It can be really fun. And there's lots of ways that you could extend this as well. If you're looking for a challenge and maybe you've coded in Scratch before or your kids have, maybe you want to add in a timer and you have to do it in a certain amount of time. Maybe there's some kind of score or you have some kind of lives where each time you hit the edge, you lose a life instead of restarting the game. You can really let your creativity take control here. You could start adding in other sprites, maybe that are black, that move around the map somehow, and you have to make sure that you're avoiding them. There's lots that you can do here. And this is a really great way of getting your kids to understand what if-then statements actually are. So thanks for doing this coding activity, and I'll see you in the next one.